Okay guys, back with part 2 of our reassembly. Next thing we're going to put on are the grips. Doesn't really matter which side you put on first, so I'll start with the side that's facing. And just go ahead and put them on. So we'll go left to right first. Now you can, on these grip screws, if you want to, you can put some stuff called gun-tight on them. It's blue. And it will, on some of them, I noticed some 1911s, Kimbers are bad about this from what I understand, but they will tend to back out a little bit over time. I've never had any trouble with the SIG screws, but if you wanted to put a little bit of gun-tight on them, you can buy it at Midway. I think Uncle Mike's makes it, or it's got Uncle Mike's name on it. It might be made by Loctite. I know it's blue. I know the red Loctite, if you put the red Loctite on there, you'll play hell getting them back off. They don't have to be super tight, just nice and snug. Don't seem to have any trouble with the SIGs coming off though. Again, very important to use the right size screwdrivers. Okay. Now remember when I said that it was important for this slot to be I mentioned that this slot was going to be important. Number one, it needs to be on the left side of the frame. The notches that are cut inside of the trigger pivot pin had to be facing down, and this slot where a screwdriver will fit has to be on the left side of the frame. The reason for that is that now, before you put in the insert lock, you're going to make sure that this slot is horizontal. So I just take my screwdriver, turn it horizontal, and that way the notches will line up whenever you get ready to put the insert lock in. Let's go ahead and let's put the slide lever spring on, the slide lever catch, or the slide release catch lever spring. The slide release lever. The slide catch release lever. Jeez, can't even say what that is. Put that on. And then when you get ready to put this on, make sure that it is all the way up against the side of the frame. So there should be the frame, then the part of the slide lever catch, a space, then the trigger. Okay? And then this literally just slides down in. Very simple. Slides in and kind of back slightly. Okay? And then it's held in, and then we're going to put in the takedown lever. Now there's a half cut out part here on this takedown lever that's right here. Start with it down toward the spring, and the reason being for that is because when you turn this, it will compress the spring and then let you push it on through. Okay? And then again, rotate it, and then rotate it again. It will compress the spring again and let it go the rest of the way on through. And that's it. It's in. Very, very simple. Very easy to do. Everything is locked into place at this time. So it won't be any problem, and you can see that the slide catch release lever works well. It springs back down, and so you're good to go at this point. That has the frame back together. Now let's move to the slide. All right. The slide, the hardest part of the slide to put back together is the extractor. Okay, so we're going to start with the extractor spring. It does not matter which way it goes in because they're both milled off. They're both cut even. There is a small hole back here that the extractor spring goes into. Slide it down into it. Let gravity do the work. Take the ejector pin. Again, doesn't matter which way it goes. Slide it down into the hole. Alright. Now, here's the fun part. The extractor. It has a small, if you can see this, has a small little lip here. It goes in. This part actually goes down into the frame. In order for this to go into the frame, you have to push the pin and the spring back. So take a flathead screwdriver, and I usually do this twice, push it back and then push it back again as far as you can. Set the extractor into it, and then release up, and it will pop down in there. If you don't get that pin back far enough, you'll never get that extractor in there. So that's why you need a very small and very thin screwdriver. And then the pin itself, the extractor spring, actually rests in that little hook on top of the extractor. You can take your finger and see that the spring action works. It's not hard to do, it's just kind of tedious. The next thing that we're going to do is you're going to drop in the firing pin safety lock spring and put in the firing pin safety lock. Now, again, we have a half moon. It's cut in half. The full side goes to the back. Drop it in right on top of it. It's not a problem. Then you have the firing pin. Now, the firing pin has some notches in it. I did not take off the firing pin spring. If you want to, grab it back here, twist it, and take it off. Because if you're not careful, you'll spring it. Okay, so grip it tightly back here, and then pull it off. You don't want it to be sprung. There's a lip on here that will hold the spring on. When you put it back on, push it on until it locks. Okay, but those notches on the firing pin, they actually face up when the pistol is right side up. So since we have the slide facing down, you're going to turn them down so they're facing toward the sights, and start it in. You'll press down on the firing pin safety lock, and you'll depress, and you'll put the firing pin all the way in, and then release the safety lock. And that's all there is to it. It's in. And you know it's in if it locks itself in position and won't come back out. Alright? The next thing you're going to do is you're going to put in the firing pin positioning pin. And does not matter, again, which end you put in first on this particular one, but start from the left side. Get it in there firmly, then take a hammer and hammer it home. Again, I put it on top of the tape roll, and be very careful with the metal hammer on this slide, and just take your time and tap it into place. Now I stop when it's part of the way through, and the reason being is you want to depress the firing pin, because if you get it locked, if you get it in there too far, it will lock against the firing pin, and if you do that, you're going to have to knock it back out. So make sure the firing pin is free. Depress it. Kind of be dexterous. Get your dexterity up and tap the pin on home. Okay, I'm very cautious to stop there. Then I take my punch and finish it the rest of the way in. Okay, now what you want to do is you want to make sure that it's centered approximately equal all the way through on both sides. And that's pretty close. Not a problem there at all. Make sure the firing pin works, that it's not binding. And that's your reassembly of the slide. Okay, then we're going to go ahead and we're going to reassemble it from the fill strip. The barrel in, the guide rod and guide rod spring. Okay, cock the hammer. Rotate the takedown lever down. Run the slide on, lock it to the rear. Okay. The lever up and decock it. Not a problem. Now, go double check our firing pin. Use one of Pete's tricks. Test the firing pin to make sure it works. Cock it. Put a pencil or a plastic pin in. And we're underneath the refrigerator. So that works quite well. And that's a function check on it once you get it back together. Now, a few final thoughts on this. Make sure that you go to the description and download the diagram and also the parts list. It will help you tremendously. This is not a difficult thing to do to take this particular firearm apart, but it does require that you have some mechanical inclination. So if you're not comfortable doing this, by all means, don't do it. Okay? Don't go beyond the basic fill strip. The basic fill strip is all you're going to need to do for standard cleaning. You get up around 1,500, 2,000 rounds or something, you may want to take the firing pin out, clean behind it or something like that. But unless there's something malfunctioning with the firearm itself, it's really not necessary to take it down this far. Take the grips off maybe every now and then, blow some of the powder residue out, maybe with some compressed air, wipe it down. That's really about, I can understand that, but it's not really necessary to do so unless you're just bored. Now, on the slide on the firing pin positioning pin, SIG's documentation states that if you remove that, you must replace that with a new one. Now, I don't necessarily think that's the case anymore, and I'll tell you why. This has a rolled pin in it. Now, a rolled pin is basically a piece of metal that's rolled up to a certain diameter. The earlier versions of the 229, the 226, the 220, probably the 228, they had a solid pin. And what actually held it into the slide itself was knurls on one end, specifically on the left side. That's why I said always go from the left side first, or everything comes out from right to left. Because on the left side was where the knurls were at. Now, probably the reason that they suggested that you replace that pin is since those knurls was what actually held that solid pin in. When you first put them in, it wears off some of the knurl. When you take it out, it wears off some more. Now, you could probably put it in and take it out again without any problem, but over time, those knurls will wear down. SIG's reasoning, most likely, okay, underline, most likely, their reasoning was that they were afraid that once the knurls wore down, that it might work itself back out. Being that this is a rolled pin and it holds pressure all the way down, I don't think that's the issue any further. I do recommend replacing this pin. You know, now I have had this one apart several times. The next time I take it apart, I will replace this pin. I keep them handy. They're not very expensive. So about every 2 or 3 times, I'll replace it. A roll pin, basically all it is when it's rolled up, it has a lip on it, kind of like my thumb to this finger. And when you drive it into a smaller area, it compresses, and then it comes out and it holds itself like that. If that was a good visualization for you. But that's basically the reason why on this. As I said before, if you're not comfortable with it, don't take it apart, because you will have to pay somebody to put it back together. It's not difficult though. If it's something you're adventurous or you're mechanically inclined and you take your time and be patient, it's not hard to do. That's it, guys. Comment, let me know what you think, and we'll go from there. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to get on our project, our HR project. We did get everything ready to go, and so we're going to start that this week sometime. I'll put up some before pictures and some afters when we start that, so that's going to be kind of like an ongoing process, but we're going to go with that. We'll see you guys down the road. I'm out. Later.